You're listening to the Easy Feed Podcast, episode number 2. I'm Karina Savage, and with over 20 years experience in feeding kids, including my own, I've learned all the secrets that busy mums need to get their kids eating better and improve their nutrition while spending less time in the kitchen. This podcast will show you exactly how to take the stress and worry out of feeding your children so that the load is lifted off your shoulders and you feel happy and confident knowing your kids are healthy. This is the Easy Feed Podcast. Hi there, welcome back. My name is Karina Savage and I am so happy that you're here. Today I'm going to be talking about something that is very close to my heart because as a mum, I don't think any of us can escape it. It's something that I think if we are more aware of, we can better manage the effect that it has on us daily, and that's mum guilt. Because mum guilt, I believe, is a daily occurrence for all of us and hits us without even realizing. It just creeps up on us when we are least expecting it, when we're doing mindless tasks like, for example, I was washing the dishes. Well, actually, I was washing the overflow that wouldn't fit in the dishwasher. I was washing the dishes last night and I was standing there worrying that I hadn't spent enough time with my daughter who was preparing her speech section for her debate for school the next day. So I was feeling guilty, but because perhaps I should have spent more time with her preparing it. And then, does that mean that if she's not going to do as well, that then she won't get picked to move through to the next stage? And, the guilt was there without me even realizing it. So, and I just think, how many times does that happen each day when you're feeling guilty for something or you're linking your self-worth as a parent to something that's happened to your children without you even realizing it? So mum guilt and mum shame, I think, have probably been around since the dawn of time. I think it's something that's always been there, but I think it's something that's probably worse now than ever. And I think that that's because we have so much out there now to compare ourselves to and, to change our perspective on things. Without meaning to, we judge our behaviors and who we are by comparing ourselves to who we think we should be or how we think we should be behaving as mums. Let me give you a little example. We see a perfect little lunchbox on Instagram. So you're scrolling through at night time, you're on the couch and up pops something on your feed that is this great healthy lunchbox for kids, and it's got and by that I mean it's got the food in it, it's got the protein, it's got the plant foods, it's colorful, and it's got everything that your child needs. And I think without even realizing it, if I was to look at that, I'd be like, wow, A, that must have taken a lot of time. B, I don't have that much time. C, my kid's lunchbox doesn't look like that, or not all the time, probably not very often. And D, does that mean my child's not getting it? So that one picture can cause this cascade of conscious or subconscious thoughts around what our children eat, whether they're getting enough, and then that can link back to our ability as a mum to provide them with good food. So all of these sort of thoughts and comparisons can come from one little picture on Instagram. Now, I'm not saying that you are like that, but I'm saying that would be, I think, a very normal reaction consciously and subconsciously for a mum that saw the perfect lunchbox on Instagram. Because I think without realizing, I reckon many of us would feel bad when we see someone providing their kids with the perfect lunchbox or the perfect dinner. It just makes us feel inadequate. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think we should feel inadequate just because we're not showing up with the perfect lunchbox every day or the perfect dinner, or that our children aren't eating the perfect dinner. So I think it's just important that we are aware of the influence of everything around us. And this isn't just a picture on Instagram. This is what people are saying. So many people say to me that, so many mums, thousands of mums that I've seen over the years have said to me how they feel inadequate when, it's been at a mother's group when, you always hear about the mums that kids are doing well, right? The kids that are sleeping through the night or the kids that are eating well. So many mums feel inadequate when they hear other mums who rave about how much food their little one's eating or who started solids first, or, it's always the one that's doing really well that you hear about. And so when you hear those stories, it makes you feel more inadequate as a mum, I believe. And I think that's unfair, because I don't think that we should try to be perfect with everything. And I'm not saying we are, but I just think it makes us feel crappy, and I don't think that's fair. It's not that your child is not getting, what it needs. I think every child is different. So the bottom line is I think we expect a lot from ourselves. And I think that often means that we have further to fall when we don't live up to those expectations, or not even that we put them on ourselves. I think because they're there, they sort of just become the norm. And I don't think that's fair. And I don't think that's normal either. It's almost like it's a false normal that's on social media. But look, you could say that about a whole lot of things on social media, right? People that go on holidays that have a really crappy holiday, but they've got this really happy family picture, and that's what they put on Instagram. So everyone thinks they've had a great time in, I don't know, Brazil or America or Hawaii. And then they get back and you actually bump into them in the street and they go, oh my God, we fought the whole time. But no one would know that, because on Instagram, it looked amazing and they looked happy. So I think, you could say about a lot of things, but certainly I think in the food world, it makes us as parents feel a lot more inadequate when we see, the perfect lunches or the perfect dinners, or I don't know, mums just killing it and doing really well can make us feel inadequate. So, 100 years ago, you could only compare yourself, or probably even 50 years ago. I mean, look, social media hasn't even been around 50 years. You could compare yourself to it. You could only compare yourself to other mums, who are living in your local community, or, your friends. However, nowadays, social media and the online world means that we are exposed to everyone everywhere, and we're exposed to thousands of mummy bloggers and TikTokers that portray the perfect versions of what we think we should possibly be. Or maybe we don't even think we should be that, but we're sort of almost brainwashed with that, right? So then reinforces social norms and expectations of what we should potentially live up to. Even if we don't agree with it, I reckon it's there in our subconscious. And I think that could be really dangerous for our own confidence and our own mental health. Yes, mum guilt is certainly there, and it's always been around. But the problem is the standards, I think, are just so much higher now. And a lot of the time, these standards, I think, completely unattainable, given that we are also trying to hold it together at home. And many of us are also trying to have a career. So when you're at work, often there are outcome goals that you are striving for, like, a project that's got to be finished. Or if you're a teacher, it's a classroom lesson that's completed. Or, there's specific goals with specific outcomes. But when you're at home with your children, what defines success? Is it that everyone's lived another day? Or, what is it defines our own success? So I think it can be easy without realizing for us to let other factors define what is success for us, if that makes sense. So, we trying to achieve what's not necessarily what we think we should be achieving, but it's kind of been put into our head because it's what we think the social norm is, because it's what is everywhere. So, for example, is success for your family the fact that your child sat at the table for 5 minutes, engaged in a 3-sentence conversation with you, past it? Is that success? If it is, amazing. That's a win, right? And we should celebrate that. Or is success for you that everyone, went to bed by 8 o'clock and they went to bed without needing you to sit there in their room for half an hour? That actually would be success for me as well, for one of my children's lives. I won't name and shame. But, success is different for every family. And I think we just need to be really mindful of how we define success for our family, and also bring that back to food too. What is success for your child or for you with food? So don't feel like you have to cook the 3-course beautiful meal that I certainly know one school mum does. And I'm like, I cannot do that. And that is not what I'm going to try to strive for, because if I put that as my goal, then I will fail every night. So we have to be really careful about where we consciously or subconsciously sort of place, benchmarks, because we don't want to set ourselves up for failure, because then we're going to feel like more of a failure, and we don't need that. As mums, we are like the glue that sticks everything together so often. We are the help desk, we are the nurse, we are everything. And we just need to remind ourselves that we are doing really well. And just to get any food on the plate, you're doing well. So try to cut yourself some slack is what I'm trying to say. So in my job over the past 21 years, I have seen so much food guilt out there, so much. And I've had literally mums crying on the phone in my rooms because they feel so guilty that they've completely stuffed up their child. They wish they could start again. They wish they could do it differently, because they truly feel like they have failed their child, and they feel like it's irreversible failure. And they come to me wanting to try to undo some of the bad that they've done. And literally they're the words that they use. And it can be soul destroying to feel like you have completely failed your child. As I said, we want to nurture our young. We want them to thrive. And if you feel like you failed your child, that has a massive ripple effect in your whole life. Like, it can reduce your confidence. It can reduce your desire to want to go out and socialize and eat with other people, especially if you've got your child there that's not going to eat well. So it can really have a huge ripple effect. It can certainly play into your relationships with your husband, the vibe in the family, certainly the vibe at the dinner table. So it can really play into all of that. So it's really important to be mindful of the food guilt and the stories that you're telling yourself, and the stories that you're actually telling other people too, because if you're talking to other people about your child, what they are or aren't eating, or, saying that they're a fussy eater, and your little 4-year-old can hear that, then they're also going to take on that story and that label, and they're going to play into that at the dinner table without them realizing or you realizing. So we don't want to create stories for our children either, because they're probably just learning to like a food, and that's a much better way of talking about it than saying they're a fussy eater. Learning to like a food it's a much positive way of viewing things, and it means that they are on this continuum, this learning and eating continuum, where they will eventually eat the food. It's not that they're a fussy eater. That's like a final sort of, they're not going to eat it again. They may, but they usually will. But if you talk about it as a continuum, they're learning to like food. Can you see how that's a very different way of thinking about it, and just has it has a much more positive connotation on eating. So I've sort of gone off track there, but I just wanted to mention that because I think it's really important how we talk about food around our children and to others. But certainly the guilt that you feel has a huge ripple effect. So what are some of the common food guilt that I hear and see when I work with mums? So first of all, there is the guilt around the chicken nuggets. So many I see just love chicken nuggets. They live on chicken nuggets. And there's a lot of guilt that mums feel around their child eating another chicken nugget and not eating the quality, healthy meat that's going to be higher in, iron and zinc. And often parents are really worried about their child's intake of iron because they may have dark circles under their eyes, or they may not. They just may be worried that their child's not getting enough iron because all they eat is chicken nuggets and not eating quality meat. So that's definitely a guilt that they're just eating nuggets and chips, and then they're worried about their nutrition there. Or there's the guilt and annoyance around the child just wants to eat white bread. And sometimes it's because maybe a brother or sister or parent, dad, only eats white bread. Sorry, dads, shouldn't blame the dads. It's not dad's fault. But certainly the white bread frustrations there, and mums can feel guilty about that. Or the plain pasta guilt. So all they want to eat is plain pasta because that's, they won't eat it with sauce, or you may get cheese on there, but the plain pasta guilt. And that can also play into whether you want to go out or not, because again, if all your child eats when you go out is plain pasta, some mums feel bad about that or judged by that, or they may compare what their child eats to others, and then that's a whole other conversation. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But certainly the guilt around the white foods is very real. Another guilt is around being so busy that you're just grabbing yet another fast food or convenience dinner. So mums feel guilty about that. And I've got plenty up my sleeve with quick and easy, things that you just pull out of the pantry just to chuck on the plate. That doesn't mean you got to swing past McDonald's, but there's certainly guilt around that. There's guilt around the white diet that children eat. There's guilt when children get sick that their child's not getting the nutrition that they need, that mum's not feeding them properly, so they're getting sick. And it certainly doesn't help when you've got other people sort of echoing those types of messages to poor mum, because we got enough on our plate. We don't need anyone else making us feel any guiltier about how we feed our children. So there are just some of the common mum food guilts that I see, but trust me, there are many more. You may even have your own mum guilts that I haven't mentioned, and I think it's just important to be aware of them and cut yourself some slack and just be compassionate and kind to yourself and say, it's okay that I've got these mum guilts, because it's completely normal to have these food guilts or whatever guilt you've got, and it's only because you can, because you love your child. So mum guilt is real, but don't let it change how you feed your child, or don't let it stop you from going out eating with friends, socializing, and don't let how your child eats change the way that you talk about food to other people as well, because that's then going to create a story in your child's mind, and that has its own ripple effect there. So it's completely normal to feel worried, or dare I say, feel guilty when your child doesn't how you want them to eat. There is absolutely no rule book when you have a baby about how to feed them. I mean, there's plenty of self-help books out there, or, how to feed your baby, or, well, actually, there's not that many, but there are books out there. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all going to work for you, for your baby, or for your child. And I think you just really need to cut yourself some slack and go, this is a journey, and there is no, clear-cut answer that's a one, fit for all children. And every child's different. I even have mums say to me that they did the same thing for their daughter and their son, and they are very different eaters. So similar genetics, and obviously one's a boy and one's a girl, same parents, same family meals, very different eaters. And so you've got to cut yourself some slack and go, yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with the actual child, but my job is to say, right, well, that's where you're at, but how do we get you from where you're at to expanding their intake, and where you're at to, reducing your food stress, and where you're at to spending less time in the kitchen and just having those quick and easy, recipes and whatnot. So that's my job for you. Okay, I'll start to wrap things up now, but I just wanted to leave with a little sort of task for you, because comparing yourself to others is only going to weigh you down. It's only going to weigh heavy. And when you compare yourself to others, that, that little voice in your head that's saying, they're doing this better than you would, they've accomplished that, why haven't you done that? That only makes you feel more rubbish about yourself. And you do not need anything that's going to make you feel more rubbish in your day or your week or your life, because then that impacts on your confidence, that impacts on your interactions with your children or friends or work. It gets you down. It sort of lowers your vibrational frequency. You feel yuck. It's not nice. So try and be mindful of when you are comparing, your friend's son who eats amazingly to your own son who may not eat as amazingly. So, for example, you're out at dinner and your friend's son, Zach, eats all this spaghetti bolognese, and, your son just eats the plain pasta. So try not to compare too much or make yourself feel rubbish about the fact that your son only ate the plain pasta as the other one ate the pasta and the meat and the veggies, because it doesn't mean that you're a poorer parent or a worse parent or a less capable parent. It just means that your son is not at the point where he wants to eat veggies with his pasta yet. It's as simple as that. So try to look at it more objectively. If you've got, your friend's child that eats an amazing lunch or eats an amazing, wheat bix or chia pudding or whatever, and your kid's at, white toast with margarine, then, show yourself some compassion, cut yourself some slack and go, right, this is where we're at in our family, and we can certainly move to a healthier option. And that's, again, my role to help you do that. but try and view it as, okay, this is where we're at and the only way is up, but try not to bring yourself down or have that little voice in your head going, you're not good enough, you're a bad mum, because you can certainly improve your child's nutrition. You just need to know how. You just need to be positive, and there's certainly plenty we can do. We just need to make one small change at a time. Try not to do it all at once because it's not going to happen. You're trying to do too much at once will only make it too hard, and then nothing's going to change. So one small change at a time means that you are going to have long-lasting improvement and long-lasting success. So once you have achieved one little thing, you put it in your pocket, and then you move on to the next thing. So trying to change everything becomes too hard, and you end up back where you started. And then you start comparing again, and you know where that gets you, into that negative Nancy tailspin. So we don't want to be comparing. We don't want that little voice going, you're not good enough, because you are good enough. Of course you're good enough. Your kids just need you to be you. They need your time, and they just need you to be positive and have fun and just show up the best you can. But, sometimes if that's just some scrambled eggs and baked beans or a bit of chopped up cucumber and a bit of, toast, that's fine. It's about just doing what you can. As I said, as mums, you are the glue that sticks everything together, and you are enough. Anything is possible with the right mindset. So we just need to try to, as much as possible, be mindful of the mum guilt, but show yourself a lot of compassion, because being mindful of it is the first step to reducing it. And that's only going to do great things for your mood, your confidence, and your energy levels. But if you're feeling a bit frustrated at dinner time, and sometimes, you are coercing or pressuring your child to eat that mouthful of vegetable, then perhaps try to focus more on the positives. So, and again, this might seem silly to you, but seriously, try it on. If you focus on the fact they are eating the plain pasta, in the pasta they are getting protein, they are getting carbohydrate, they might even get a bit of iron. Focusing on the positives that they are getting that pasta and anything else that they eat, try and focus on the positives and focus on the fact that they're sitting with you. You've got that 5 minutes or that 10 minutes or that 15 minutes, if you're lucky, to chat to them about the day, to converse with your child that you love. So just try and focus on quality family meal times together and be appreciative of what they are eating, because that mindset and that approach will absolutely lead to them trying more foods in the future. And look, there's plenty of other things that go into a happy mealtime where they're going to stretch their intake. That's, where I can help you a lot more. And that's what is all of my Nourishing Kids membership, is everything to do with all of that. And obviously this podcast is designed to help you move to a much happier place with feeding your children and nourishing your kids as well. But certainly showing up to the table in a very different way, being more grateful and appreciative and trying not to stress and worry as much is going to mean that you have absolute monumental shifts in how your child eats. And this is all planting seeds that will grow over the weeks and months and years, but it will absolutely be a game changer for you if you really are serious about making some positive changes to your mindset, approach, and the vibe at the dinner table. So I'm going to leave that with you. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure. If you like what you hear, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast. And once you listen to a few and you've really received some great value, please leave me a review so that it helps get the podcast out to more mums. Bye for now.